first ever UK-Rwanda Business Forum took place at the Kigali Convention Center in Rwanda's capital, Kigali. It brought together delegates from both countries' public and private sectors to delve into potential investment prospects and review the significant achievements in their strategic trade ties. Highlighting the gathering was a panel discussion involving Dr. Uzziel Ndagijimana, Rwanda's Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, Kameta Sainzoga, the Chief Executive Officer of the Development Bank of Rwanda, Mansour Hamayun, the co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of B-Box, and Faustin Bundu, the Chairman and owner of MFK Group Limited. It was centered on unleashing growth opportunities between the two nations, leveraging their unique strength and collaborative potential.
So we've heard about Rwanda's priority markets being mentioned. You can invest or do business in mining, manufacturing, infrastructure. There are opportunities available. So can you shed more light on how businesses and investors can strategically position themselves to capitalize on opportunities in these priority markets?
Rwanda's growth trajectory has been driven by the three sectors, agriculture, industry, and services. Currently, service sector contributes about 48% of our GDP, followed by industry and agriculture, between 25 and 20% respectively. Rwanda has created an enabling environment for investment in all these sectors. So there is a variety of choices our investors can choose from. And what's very important, our market is not large, our domestic market, but Rwanda is connected to larger market in the region and to Africa as a whole under the continental free trade area, which is growing, but also we are connected to the rest of the world. Investing in Rwanda is also investing for those markets surrounding Rwanda. And we have a growing domestic private sector ready to collaborate with foreign investors to grow businesses. So I believe this forum will create opportunities to really to explore these opportunities. And as the CEO of RDB said, we expect to register a number of new businesses during these 3 days.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Now, if I may jump actually to Mr. Mbundu, who is actually the owner of your own business group and also representing the private sector. What has your experience been like operating in Rwanda, and where do you see opportunities for the private sector?
This horticulture export journey has not been easy. When you consider the other markets in Europe, there's a time we had a conference for Agra, I believe, and on the panel I was telling people that we encounter traders or importers that act like bullies, who don't respect contracts because as exporters of raw products, we don't really have a strong base on which to stand. You can imagine when you export goods and an importer brings all sorts of complaints about quality, mold, temperature levels, and you don't have a representative there on the other end. It's really challenging. So those are the challenges we went through maybe about 5 years ago to about 3 years ago. But the interesting thing is that we never experienced that trading with the UK. We never experienced bullies as importers. We never experienced people who switch goalposts in order to discount your quality and price. And for that matter, our business with UK has grown more than in the other countries in Europe. And also, the opportunities we see, leave alone horticulture. We export roasted coffee. And when you look at other countries in the Western world who are the main consumers, it's very difficult to break through the markets there. Because even the rest of Europe, you're talking about import duties of 7.5% as a standard before you talk about VAT. But currently we're exporting roasted coffee in UK, and it's tax-free. There's no taxes. We file our VAT, we're selling online, and we're continuing to grow. And for that matter, it's opening our markets into the rest of Europe. So when you talk about succeeding in Rwanda, I think you succeed if you want an export market. Definitely the UK is one of them, because the experience has proved it.
Now, coming back to Ms. Campetta, we've heard about access to market and how private sector has been facilitated to be able to easily access export markets. But we know that for the private sector to thrive, access to capital is also equally important, and finance. Can you tell us a bit about, as CEO of BRD, what BRD is doing to facilitate private sector to unlock and access this capital? And also, what areas do you see opportunity for businesses and investors in Rwanda?
Thank you very much. So the Development Bank of Rwanda is owned mainly, or I would say overwhelmingly, by the government of Rwanda. And there's a reason for that. There's a general understanding that access to capital is important, but knowing where this capital is going and making sure that this capital is going to areas that are key for economic growth and sustainable development is even more important than the money itself. So as a tool that is available to the Minister of Finance, that's available to the government, we're able to channel long-term concessional finance into priority sectors that government has identified as key. These priority sectors have been, I think, described by the Minister very eloquently in his opening remarks. And we are a financial institution that allows this capital to flow through financial institutions. So I see some of the CEO of the local banks here. They're also our clients because the capital flows through them. It flows through microfinance institutions, through grassroots level financial institutions such as the SACCOs. But what is important is that it promotes long-term investment. And very often in economies like our economy, when the savings rates are slightly below average, it's important to have the government play a role to make sure that long-term finance is available at affordable rates. We've managed to support businesses to innovate in areas like nowhere else before in Africa. And when we look at the ease of doing business, the ease of doing business is important, but it's even more critical when we're trying to do new things. And the Development Bank of Rwanda prides itself in being able to support this journey for both local investors, but also international investors such as BBOX. And we do that by providing cheap loans, we do that by providing de-risking instruments, technical assistance, by supporting some of the financial institutions in their environment and social safeguard journey. And investing is hard. I know today we are telling the good story because there's a good story to tell. But we all have to be quite sober that investing anywhere in the world, I'm sure in the UK, in Rwanda, in China, wherever you go, investment is a very risky and difficult business to endeavor. I like the candid feedback from Faustin about his own experience. And what we try to do is to say, how can we support our clients to have sound business plans that are implementable in the Rwandan context? We are trying to innovate in a world that is globally changing so fast. And being able to partner with us in terms of skills development is going to be key. Because part of what we're looking forward to, we also have expectations, by having all these guests around, is to say, how can we have some skills transfers? How can we have some knowledge transfer? How do we have technology transfer? And how do we support the Rwandan, labor force that is indeed cheap and skilled to actually have cutting-edge access to skills? And this is something that we can tap into the UK network, and we look forward to. And as a development bank, we want to provide a bridge between, the local ecosystem and the international ecosystem. And we feel this is our role. And our role, if I had to summarize it in one word, is basically support the Ministry of Finance and the government to ensure that investment from the private sector is drawn into these areas that have the maximum potential.
Innovation, access to market, skills development, a conducive environment. I want to ask the next question to Mr. Mansour, right? CEO of BBox Africa. BBox is a British organization, company, and we also had in the video that you chose Rwanda to relocate your headquarters. We'd like to hear more from you. Why Rwanda? We know that BBox operates in Rwanda and also in the wider East African region, but seeing the audience and the visitors we have today, could you share more about your journey, why you chose Rwanda, and what it has been like to set up shop in Rwanda?
No, thank you so much. BBox is really a Rwandan story. The whole thing really started in 2010, and myself and my two co-founders were students in London studying electrical engineering. And we wanted to do something bigger than just doing a group project or a study project. We wanted to actually bridge that classroom learning with a real world problem. And we had this crazy idea: why do we not actually partner with a group of students from somewhere else to solve a common problem? And we were lucky enough to be able to get introduced to KIST, Kigali Institute of Science and Technology, which today is called University of Rwanda. And we partnered with our fellow electrical engineering students at the university there. And we decided to provide a village with electricity within 1 year. And fast forward that year, we were in Minazi in Gakenke district for the Rwandans in the room, and we provided 60 households with electricity for the first time using solar, batteries. We spent a month living in that village, more or less. And we did that completely from an aspect of adventure. But honestly, that was one of my most life-changing experiences. I learned two big things here. One thing I learned was that the huge opportunity technology has in terms of solving today's problems and the ability to use technology to leapfrog. So people were going from kerosene and candles to having modern electricity of solar panels and batteries, while I in London was still consuming much more inefficient forms of energy. So the poorest in the world could get the best. And the other thing was the collaboration. The fact that people from very different walks of life, etc., can come together and create a solution that individually we could not do ourselves. And fast forward now, we operate in 10 countries. We provide electricity to nearly 6 million people, including over 10% of the Rwandan population we provide electricity to, thanks to many help from many people in the room here. And that's not just providing electricity, but also providing access to clean cooking, e-mobility, internet services. All those things become suddenly possible. So when we think about what is the future for us, and we think about expanding, it doesn't make sense for us anymore sitting in London to be the operational headquarters. It doesn't have the best connectivity to Africa. It doesn't have the most experienced people anymore. while in places like Rwanda, it's now becoming a place where the connectivity exists, the experience exists, the infrastructure exists, and we see ourselves having our operational headquarters here to be able to actually be an accelerant to our vision for wider Africa. And I think this is not just testaments to the leadership, but also the skills. The most exciting thing in Rwanda, and I encourage everyone here today, there's not too many of them in the room, is meet young Rwandans. If you meet young Rwandans, this generation of Rwandans, their outlook of life and outlook of what is possible is radically different. Because why? They've already experienced a miracle in their own lifetime in 10 years. So their ability to experience another miracle is certainly possible. And that is something that makes Rwanda an extremely exciting place. So thank you for allowing me to be here and to allow us to be successful from this place.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Mansour. And if I could add further to that, in terms of, you started even talking about it, what strategies did you deploy to achieve success? You started mentioning collaboration with different entities. Can you speak more to that?
I think the fundamental thing was understanding the customer. People often come with a Western mindset, etc. The one thing that people don't think about enough is that in countries like Rwanda, the informal economy is still larger than the formal economy. And what is the characteristics of the informal person? The characteristic is that they tend to earn daily and they tend to spend daily. That is the economic profile. It's not a monthly salary, monthly billing, monthly direct debits, etc. So for us was just that realization that the informal economy, we have to charge them daily, and then we have to provide them service on a bite-sized basis. That's why we invented this concept of pay as you go. People pay using mobile money, so you pay with your phone. When you pay, your solar system turns on. When you don't pay, the solar system turns off. And that will be also being able to link to something very uniquely African, which is mobile money. The fact that people already leapfrog from banks and traditional telecom to straight to your mobile phone and being able to do those services, and combining that with sort of pay-as-you-go provision. You need to really understand the customer journey very, very well. And that means that having a local talented workforce that can relate between all of the different worlds. This is critical. So technology combined with that active work.
Now coming back to Honorable Minister, and this is a question, let's look towards the future now, right? We are at the UK-Rwanda Summit, fostering collaboration to increase access to growth and private sector development. What are your expectations for Rwanda's business sector and UK-Rwanda support in terms of private sector development for the next 5 to 10 years? What do you anticipate to see from this forum in helping us achieve even a greater collaboration and private sector engagement?
Thank you. It is very exciting to hear the experiences from Mansour and Faustin. And our expectations is to have 1,000 Mansours and Faustins, because these are real examples of what is possible in our country. So these successes are very convincing. So we expect more and more businesses between our two countries. And you can see what Mansour is saying, that it is easier to operate from Rwanda, serve the market of Rwanda, but also to target the wider continental market. And this is our aspiration as well. Rwanda is an important player in the process of the development of the African Continental Free Trade Area. As you recall, it was established here in this room in 2018, and you are a major player in supporting the acceleration of the implementation of this continental market. So we invite investors to start in Rwanda, benefit from our business environment, but together we can expand to the wider market in the region and on the continent.
And I'll ask this question as well to the rest of the panelists. And Kampeta, as a banker yourself, what expectations do you have for this forum? And what are some of the partnership opportunities you foresee also with UK-based partners?
A couple of things. I think to pick up on where the minister has left off, the first thing that we haven't talked about on this panel is around sustainable investment and sustainable development and our transition towards the green economy. And I know that's also something where the minister and his team have shown tremendous leadership. And as BRD, we've also been pushing very hard. Rwanda started believing in the green transition way before it became sexy at the international level. We're one of the first countries to ban plastics, to do what we needed to do to actually contribute to this global important topic. And not only are we talking about it or leading from the policy perspective, but also leading from the finance perspective. And with the support of the partners and the Ministry of Finance, for example, BRD has been able to launch its first sustainability-linked bond, which is the first bond that was ever issued by a national development bank in the world. So this is an example of how we merge innovation, our commitment to the green transition, and being able to avail financial instruments that are relevant for investors, both international investors and local investors. We've also made sure that this bond is helping us actually ease access to long-term capital for the investors in Rwanda. So today, if you come to BRD and you're eligible to benefit from the sustainability-linked bond, you can have the money at 400 basis points below market rate, so 4% below market rate for loans that can go up to 15 years, right? We've also, with the partnership of the Green Fund, started the first African facility that is a private sector one-stop shop for green finance, purely green finance. And that also has been priced very well, and it's to support the investors that are in the room that are particularly interested in sustainable cities, smart agriculture. I see the Minister of Agriculture in the room, areas such as renewable energy, which are key for the green transition, and e-mobility, all these areas that are actually cutting edge that we know are going to play a big role in the green transition. So one thing that I think, as we think about the future, that we are also thinking about is how do we make sure that the UK investors that come can also participate in the green transition, in our green transition, which eventually, of course, contributes to the global context. So my expectation is that from this forum, we'll be able to make the connections, we'll be able to make the connections for the type of investment that matter to our own growth agenda, but also the business opportunities for the UK investors. And the message is we're here to partner. Rwanda is looking outward. So we're very excited to see people from outside coming, picking interest in our growth areas. And as the banking industry, I think I can speak on behalf of my colleagues from the banking industry, we are ready. And we are ready to do business and to support you through this journey.
Thank you so much. Market expansion, green transition, sustainability. Mansour, what are your expectations from this forum?
I think there's two parts I would say to this. One thing is that Africa is such a huge market opportunity, right? The 1/4 of the world's teenagers by 2040 are going to be Africans, right? It's the largest untapped consumer market on earth. But Africa is a complex place, and if you want to enter the continent, what is the right way to enter, where to enter, how to enter, etc. From that perspective, I think Rwanda has really positioned itself as a pathway to the entry to the biggest untapped consumer market on earth, right? So this is very much how BBOX sees Rwanda in terms of our overall African strategy, and I think hopefully that will resonate with a lot more people. The other thing as well is that modern Rwanda is born out of this tragic tragedy, right, that happened. And for a long period of time, this is what Rwanda was known for, and its recovery from it, etc. And of course, it should never be forgotten, and history should be preserved. But I think it's also a real opportunity to redefine what Rwanda's future looks like. What is Rwanda known for? For both from a financial perspective, both from a stability perspective, both from an innovation perspective. And I think a lot of the entrepreneurs here hopefully are able to people that are visiting Rwanda for the first time to surprise them in terms of the really innovative things going on here. So those are two big things that I hope that this forum can demonstrate, and I look forward to next year.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Mr. Mbundu, in terms of what's the private sector looking for in foreign partners, such as UK-based firms, and what are also your expectations from this forum?
To answer your question, one of them is financing, which will come from collaboration and getting to know each other and trusting us as a source, because, as I said, we are certified, we have international standards, but also, I'm also looking at our city is growing with the conferences we have with tourists, with the experts. We also need to develop our high care food packaging, where you have ready-to-eat meals. It happens a lot in the supermarkets in Europe, in UK. I think we need to do that, also to do it for ourselves, but also to test the concept so that we can actually export from here high care, already packed products that have even more value, because our labor is cheap, our cold chain is in place, we have good infrastructure, the airline has really come forward to answer our cargo challenges, and I'm sure they are continuing to. I'm looking at Yvonne here, I think she's listening to me. And we hope that Rwanda will continue to give us freight services. But I think once we do that, we can expand the scope of the value of the products we are doing and even the quantities.